And I will start. So this is what we call advances in AI. Any other name will do just as well. That is the link to the program. It should probably be on our sign up list. So if you go to Elephant Scale here, and if you look for webinars, then you will see this one. It's right here. And what you get there is a chance to sign up so that you will get a regular email register for this event. And whatever was before, so I see the latest is 0405, but we'll put the latest also. It will be 2 more. But they're all here, or not to waste your time, you can simply use that link, this one, and look through the previous what we were discussing. So that's me, I'm Mark. That's the webinar folder. All the things, I dropped them into this folder. I'll show you the folder right here. So lots of junk and garbage, but whenever I need anything of that, I just copy that link and put it into our program, so it's always available. That's one more thing. And learning path here, if you click on that, you will get my spreadsheet with all the courses. Mostly they are from Andrew Ng, who was publishing a new course every week. And that just shows how much new stuff there is. These are his courses. Now, in that particular spreadsheet, I also put my course right across. And by my course, I mean usually it is just a copy of their course, copied to a local directory. And you see, I was pretty bad about that, but all of them should be put into our local repository and run locally. That's most important because, okay, it runs in the environment, but you don't even know what you're missing before you copy it on your local computer. And these are all on the Git. You look there, they're right here. It's an open AI labs, all in the same place. And you can say, I want that. So you will clone it into your computer, and that's what the useful. So the emphasis that I'm putting is on practical implementation, and it should work in your environment. And whatever new keys you need, that's what you have. So that is an outline of what we have been doing. Then we meet every Friday, and today is April 19th. So we usually talk about what is interesting in new things in theory and what is also interesting in practice. So I'll share all the interesting things, maybe at the expense of talking about private things that I should not be talking about, but they're all here. Okay, and if you go back, if you go all the way to the bottom of that list, then you will see that it all started on December 9, 2022. So we've been around for almost 2 years. That's where we are. Okay. Now, today, what we're going today is to look at one more course, Quantization Fundamentals, and then that same course in our repo. Now, I talked about that last time, right? It would be right here. It would be now, but not quite. But I think it's here. Okay, and we did it. I'm just, oh, you need to log in. Just too much. Let's go into our repository. Just as well. And I also wanted to show you that it is also in our repository right here. And what we want to talk about is this. We want to store different data types and parameters for the machine learning model. And we install the library. So very deep technical stuff. I'm not going too deep into that. How do you use different models with different parameters, because that's just too technical and too deep. You only need it when you are really working in that environment. And then there is even theory. How do you make sure that your models are right, with that the with all the multitude of models, how do you make sense of it? That's what that course is about. But since I'm announcing something more interesting, I would say, then I'm not concentrating on this one, but instead I'm going to explain what kind of class I want to announce. So to make it in order, I will cut this from there and put it right here. And I will tell you the honest story of what happened. What happened is that that was the first time that I got a real request to teach AI. Now, you will be surprised because there are lots of courses online, but that was the first one that made sense. I mean, the channels were using the right words at least, because by now nobody understands anything other than the people who really do it. So you seldom get a request that makes any sense. That one did. In response for that, I wrote an outline of the course that I personally would think is important for you guys to know, or for anybody to know. I'll show you the outline. Let me do that. The outline, I think it's not there. That is just the first few slides. The course will be called Generative AI with RAG. That's what we will be talking about today also. But I think I will do well if I show you the outline, which should be right here. There is a new tool from the same IntelliJ company. I think it's called IDEA. And that one is just like all the other ones, just like PyCharm, just like IntelliJ, but it is only for writing materials. And for us, it makes a lot of sense because we're writing a lot of material in addition to writing code. So that is where I compose this outline. Now, what's good about that environment is that it is DM, it's Markdown, MD, Markdown file. And you can see the way it will look after you generate anything. That's what it looks like. So you can write your code here. You can see the result here. Let's go. I'll show you what I included in this course. And well, honestly, I'm going to offer it to everyone here. And as a self-study, that's why I'm going through that. So let's look at the course. Let's make it maybe just purely the final result. Okay, it's called Generative AI with RAG. RAG is Retrieval Augmented Generation. Confusing term, but what it means, how do I practically use AI? And practically, you usually break your input files into reasonable pieces, not too big ones, but not too small ones. That's a separate art, how to break your documents. And that's been already studied in the search. Let's say you want to make sense out of a book. So you break it into chapters, and chapters may be too big, so maybe sections. And that's where the problem comes up, where you need to break it into the right fragments. If you make the fragment too small, it doesn't make sense. If you make it too big, it makes too much sense. That's what you do with RAG. You take your documents and you break them into reasonable sizes. And then you use a vector DB. Now, that vector DB is a semantic search engine. They call it vector DB because technically it is a vector DB as opposed to every other database for search, which is a keyword DB. But vector DB happens to be a product. So they specifically requested it has to be vector DB. But when I wrote it, I added the fact that it can be Pinecone or any other similar database. So therefore, that's a generic term. Generative AI, which is all the rage, with retrieval augmented architecture, and with vector DB or any other kind of semantic database. Now, why? Why is that important? Well, that's because today everybody uses AI like that. They take your documents, they don't give all of the documents to AI. That's technically hard and it's not the best approach. But instead they give the context, what is called context, and that context they initially search using this pinecone or vector-DB, and then with that result they send it to ChatGPT or any other LLM. Now, that's today's architecture. Most popular by default, that's what you use. But until recently, I was thinking all of that will go away when ChatGPT comes with version 5. Because they are latest technology, they work right, and VectorDB is 10 years old, and it's just the beginning of good search. It's not that I completely changed my mind, but I met a study, which I will share with you today, which essentially says that that is the best architecture. Not like I was saying, and if I'm really proven wrong in the coming half a year, let's say, so I'll say I was wrong. But right now, it seems like that study insists that it is the best possible architecture. Don't think that anything is wrong there. In fact, it claims that you can use this architecture to make the ChatGPT better and not worse. All right, that's why this course, because it's the latest and greatest and state-of-the-art in building such systems. So that's talking about semantic components, which can be vector-DB from data stacks, or it can be any other one. And after the course, you will know all that you have to know. My goal in trying that course on you guys is because I feel that anybody who is interested in working in this area and being hired by somebody should pretty much learn that. That's what I would like a person to know if I were to hire him, and I'm not hiring anybody right now, but if the funding comes through, I will be. If you want a job anywhere else, I think that that is the combination of skills you should have. All right, these are all the standard things. Let's come to the outline. First, I want the people to know prompt engineering. Prompt engineering, after all the keyword up and down, after all the hullabaloo and all the pomp and all the announcement about $400,000 a year for prompt engineering, it became a very reasonable course by Andrew Ng. So my plan will be, okay, here's the Andrew Ng course. I'm not going to repeat it for you. For my paying client, I will actually repeat it. I will prepare slides. But for you, I'll tell you, here's the course you need to learn. And by the way, I will enhance it. I'll say, here's the lab that you can clone and do all of that. And that's your code. But then I will give you a workshop. I will say, and now we're doing something practical using that. But using that, but not exactly doing what they did. So prompt engineering will be the first part of the course. The next will be, now let's implement what I said. You need semantic search. You need to break your documents into reasonable pieces, store them, and then question them with your documents. That will be the second part. I want to be able to talk to my documents, and that's how I want to do it. So that will be the second part. The third part will be about LangChain. LangChain is one of the libraries that is popular to build exactly that. So you can build a semantic search database and then use LangChain as a glue to put it all together. And you will have to do models, prompts, and parsers. In other words, how do I implement all of that? All of that I get in ChatGPT window, but programmatically. And then ChatGPT remembers your name. Please pay attention. So if I'm going to ChatGPT, then the famous experiment is, what is my name? and it should say I don't really know. Yeah, so I don't know your name. But if I say this, my name is Mark, and it will say hello, Mark. And now, what is my name? Your name is Mark. Easy, right? Why? How does it know? Well, that's because I told it. But the protocol, the API that ChatGPT uses, it doesn't remember. There is no memory. The memory comes from the implementation of this dialogue by ChatGPT. Exactly how you do it, that depends. For example, in a very simple implementation, you can programmatically copy all of that and say, that's what we talked about before. And now my next question is, what is my name? That you can do, but here is a better way, or potentially a better way, memory. So LangChain implements that in memory for you with all possible variations. You can keep a fixed length memory window, or you can summarize the previous long conversation and get away maybe with the summary. Or there are a few approaches you can imagine. All right, and then LangChain tells you how do you chain together a few questions and so on. Well, and in the study that I'm going to show you, those guys dispense with LangChain. They just don't use it. They say, that's too hard. It is too much changing libraries. We'll take it out. I'll tell you why they say it and what does LangChain think. And then I haven't spelled out enough. That really, each one of these is a separate Mandarin course. So how exactly do you architecture and how do you test? Because testing models it requires statistics, and you cannot just test it occasionally here and there. You need a good system of testing. And then how do you keep improving it? So all of that depends also on the which cloud. So I plan to have an overview and have examples working in every cloud. And when I do it for a regular training, then I will have a scoping call and I will ask them, where are you? Which cloud are you in? But for you guys, I'll give you all the clouds. So if you're interested in that, I will be publishing piece after piece. You don't have to sign up, but in every one of our meetings, I will tell you, okay, the next part is ready. That's what I expect you to do. And that is what I mean when I say course announcement, right here. Okay, so I'll pause, stop talking because we have finished that first portion. We'll be talking about that study that I referred to, and we will be talking about practical aspects of what happened recently. So let me do this. Stop share, mute myself, and allow you to talk and ask questions if you have them. No questions. Great. And maybe there will be questions, but that tells me that I think I pretty well explained what I want to do. So I'm giving a chance to talk to every person who recently joined.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Please.
So, can you please elaborate on RAG a little more?
Yes, that's a great question. So RAG is a term for popular architecture. It's not descriptive. RAG means retrieval augmented architecture. And until I explain to you what it really does and means, it doesn't tell you anything. I'm just trying to close the talk window, and now I want to open it again. So I answer. The question was about the cost of the course. It will be 0, but here I'll talk more about that. Okay, let me share again. Retrieval augmented architecture, you can find that anywhere, but the essence is this, 2 steps. Instead of just talking directly to ChatGPT or any other model, you first take your documents and send them to a semantic engine. So that can be any of the available softwares. It can be that same VectorDB, which is a product, or it can be Pinecone. Pinecone doesn't do local installation, so you would have to pay, but they are not expensive at all because they have come up with the serverless storage, and you only pay for what you use, and they also have a free tier. So reg architecture is available to everybody. You take your documents, you store them in semantic search engine. Every query that comes your way, you first send it to this engine to get relevant documents, and then the relevant documents become the context. That's the term of art. It's just relevant documents, but that is called the context, and you send that with the questions to the ChatGPT. That is RAG. Is that your question? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did, but I'm just trying to see for some of the use cases that I'm working on, like how can I utilize this architecture? Because if you give a question to ChatGPT engine, right, it does
Yes.
the translation based on the prompts that we provide. So looks like the RAG architecture can be used as a step one to
Mhm.
refine the prompt, and then we can feed that to the GPT engine. Is that right?
Yes, but when you say to define the prompt, now you're including additional information. You're not just giving the prompt, give me the best pizza. You're also saying, and here is the menu that the ChatGPT wouldn't have otherwise. You're saying, I'm a restaurant, here's my menu, which you don't know if I don't tell you. And now tell me which is the best. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like a step one, right? Which is feeding the GPT engine.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So this can be used in iterations, like to get the refined responses.
Yes, yes. But that course, I'm planning to actually make you work through all of that because unless you really do it, you still don't get it. It's easy to theorize and
Yeah.
talk about things in general, but only when you try to go through the labs, it suddenly begins to make sense. That's the purpose of that course.
So I have one additional question. You did mention about the lang chains, right?
Yes,
The lang chain, can I assume that more like an agents which are
yes,
connected
agent,
together?
library, glue to put it all together.
Yeah, so now I'm trying to understand how this RAG architecture fits in with this lang chains.
You can think of it as a language. You can program in Java, you can program in Python, but you can also program in LangChain. It will be, your code will read as Python, but it will have additional libraries and function calls that come from LangChain.
Oh, so LangChain is more like a framework, whereas RAG is more like an architecture.
Exactly. That's very well put.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So you were talking about how am I going to offer this course, and somebody said their audio doesn't work. Then if the audio doesn't work, that is a problem. Maybe later on you will be able to listen to the recording, but your question is, what about the cost? So the cost will be 0. That's popular thing today. Look, Andrew Ng, all his courses are free. But since you're not going to just click through somebody else's environment, you're going to use yours, then you will spend a few cents. Uh, you will need access to ChatGPT. It's easy to set up, but it will give you a token, but in return, it will ask you for your credit card. And you will have to investigate the costs, but in my experience, they're very, very negligible. Secondly, you may need additional, let's say we're talking about a cloud implementation. You may need the cloud account. Again, they are available and most of them have a free tier. So you can essentially do it on a few cents, I think, maybe even zero. That's the plan. That's the plan. And now that will make sense when I started, because today I only announced. And you know, that happened just because many people were asking about exactly the same thing. But now what I want to do is stop sharing and reshare with sound. Let me do this. I stop share. I share again with the sound. Clicking on this all here. They changed the layout, but it's still here. So now I'm sharing the screen again, and that is because that is what they call the workshop. So I'll start that workshop. I'm not, no, I am making it bigger. Okay.
And what are the challenges you have when building enterprise large-scale RAG systems? And so I've actually built my first neural network exactly 30 years ago.
Okay, that's nice, but very classical workshop where people mostly promote themselves. And these are the makers of Pinecone. Pinecone is the semantic database, vector database. There are other names that allows you to store your pieces of information and that allows you to build RAG systems. So they touch on length chain, and in their opinion, length chain is not needed. I'm sure that the length chain people would vehemently disagree. So I noticed that these guys are touting their own horn. I cannot resist noting this. They might be right. They might be right about everything that they say, but their opinion always ends up preferring their solution and not any other one's solution. Other than that, it's a great presentation, and the link is there. I invite you to listen to it. But I myself will close that because they very nicely provided the slides as well. So let me try to close that. Okay, I closed it successfully. And I see there is something on the chat. Okay, link to the shared document. The most important link is this one. It has all those sessions that we had. I find myself it very, very useful because anything that comes up, we probably spoke about this and we can find it here. That's the link. Okay. Hope that's what you were asking for. All right, let's go back. I said that they very nicely provided the slides. Now these slides, I can show them here. I couldn't find any way to download it. They just made sure that you come to their site and look at it this way. So again, they tout their horn and they show their study, but that's the most important, their study. What is their study? Well, they tried to prove that they're right. How did they do it? They took 200 use cases, and in every one or majority of these use cases, their approach worked better. And what's the approach? It's the RAG approach. That one which I kept denigrating through the previous weeks and saying that you combine the Pinecone or any other vector database, which is a 10-year-old technology invented by Thomas Mikolov, and and that started the whole revolution. BERT, Google Translation started with him, but then came 2023 ChatGPT and it changed it all. Now you're combining the two. You're combining the 2013 technology with the 2023. They say it is the best approach. They say that if you break your documents into meaningful pieces, then it beats big models. I mean, the big models are still in the background, but the improvement to these models come because you're wisely storing your documents in Pinecone. Well, they might be right. It's just that somehow it always works their way. That's the slides, and the link to the slide is here. And they talk about why practically it is the best and how you can use any other model, but who wins? The one who uses their product. Here are some problems. So they say the large models become slow and so on. I will let you be the judge, and I will let you decide whether you use LangChain or you don't. My course does put the LangChain in, and that way you will be able to decide on your own, rather than they will tell you that, don't even worry, it's better. It's better what we say. That is all I can say, because that really is a whole 1 hour presentation. And here are the slides that don't make much sense without you listening. So all the links are good, just require some of your work. Okay, and that finishes the theoretical part. The practical part is I was able, with the help of my friends, to run Llama locally, and I will show that to you to pick up your interest. I'm logging into a virtual machine. That virtual machine is residing in the Amazon cloud, in the government section of that, because the project itself has security requirements. And here we have installed Llama. However, if you just install Llama, it's not that easy. At least for me, it wasn't. It said, oh, you don't have GPU and we need GPU. And that was not true. I did have GPU. It just didn't detect it. So I found a new implementation, all Llama. So if you use this all Llama, then it brings in the Llama and brings us the model, and somehow doesn't ask you for authentication. Who are you? Where is Llama? It does. And then you script it like this. I'll show you one of those scripts. It's demo 2. Okay. So what we do is we take a text that becomes the context, the one which we use in RAM. So we have, I'll show you that file also. And then we ask a question. So here's your context, here's your question, I want the answer. Extractor is the script that calls Olama. Olama is installed then as a service, so it is somewhere. I can probably say which. And it is there, but it is installed as a service. So I can probably look at all the processes and look for Olama, which should be running. And there you are, it is running. And I wanted to satisfy your curiosity by looking at the complete text. Well, not much, right? No, what I wanted to look as clean. Yeah, clean. Yeah, that's the text. It's a cleaned up record of someone driving and something like that, glued together, joined together from quite a long time ago, but that's what I will be providing as a context. And then I will ask, is there an arrest mentioned in there? Of course, you can do such things with regular expressions, but they will never be stable. So what I'm doing is running demo 02 with the local install of Llama, and now it's running. Well, it is running, but I want to see how hard it is working. So I'm logging in again, and I'm saying, show me the processes. And you see it has 4 CPUs, and all these 4 CPUs are running very hard, 399%. And it will keep running for about a minute, and then it will come back with the reasonable result. And if you're talking to a large language model, you can tell it to please answer me in JSON. So it's a great solution, but my purpose was to run a local machine so that it's not sending its document to ChatGPT, because many agencies will have a big problem sending anything to ChatGPT. Therefore, a need for local solutions. However, after all that, we still plan to maybe use Llama in the end, after all, after debugging and improvement. I'm showing you the practical running of it with the practical drawbacks. First of all, it's working very hard, but it still takes about 1 minute at least to come up with the answer. Second is because that module is 7 billion parameters. It's not super smart. And maybe the size does matter a lot. So it hallucinates, it gives you wrong answers. It invents them. If you tell me the date of arrest, and you didn't provide the date of arrest, it will still give you some kind of imaginary date of arrest, so you can't rely on that. Well, with that, I went to the client and explained all of that. And even though we are going to use this kind of thing in the future, okay, it's almost done, it's done, okay. There was a charge. He gave the codes. I think that's pretty smart. And it said that's what he did. That was wrong. All right. But what is this? Maybe it's the code. Okay. Maybe it wasn't bad. But still, you see that it works hard, doesn't quite get the result, you know, want to get out of there. So I got the permission to go to what are the solutions? In other words, if your local machine doesn't quite cut it or needs improvement, you can go to, let us say, Government Cloud Amazon or Government Cloud Azure. And especially Government Cloud Azure is very tempting because it gives you exactly the same ChatGPT, but under control requirements, which you will be able to explain to the client is secure. So that's my next step. I will build it in Government Cloud Azure. Now, building it in Government Cloud Azure is not all that easy because I've been trying to get access to that for about 2 or 3 weeks. And because of all the registrations, it's not that easy. They really test you more than they do at Amazon. But I'm sure I'll get there. I even spend some extra money with some crook so he knows how to do it. And I was taken for a ride. But that's part of the frustration. So let me do this. Here we are. I told you what happens when you want to be smart and you run it on Olama, and the experience they had. I'll pause it here because I see some questions. So I will do this. I will stop share. Where's my share? Stop share, right? And I will look into the questions and see if they are anything to do with that. Okay. What is Llama? Llama is a ChatGPT that you can run locally on your computer. It comes from Facebook. It's not really ChatGPT. It's a similar thing. I'm just using ChatGPT as a term that everybody knows. But Llama is a model that Facebook created and open source. So you can use it for free, completely for free, except for the computing resources, which Sam Altman, who is the CEO of ChatGPT, says it may be the most precious resource of the future, compute. So it is free, but not quite. And Llama comes in at least 2 models, 7 billion and 70 billions, but I think more. I heard that they're working on Llama next version, which will be 3. And on Llama, it's a tool that installs it nicely. So if you go buy the book and install Llama and it doesn't work, then you go to Llama and everything is nice and packaged and you can run it. All right, now you ask, how is it different from OpenAI, Azure, and Anthropic? These are all great questions that show you why you need, okay, not my course, but why you need to work in this area, because that it makes sense. Okay, OpenAI is a closed company that is producing ChatGPT. That is real AI. Nobody argues about that. They only argue that doesn't have consciousness or it doesn't. But it is the best, and I think it's quite safe to say it's the best implementation. Now, you see studies, you see places where other models maybe come on top, but without too much study, you cannot go wrong with ChatGPT. Azure is a partner that invested like 8 billion to start in OpenAI. And this Azure has access to the same OpenAI, but it is the safe version. So they promise and guarantee that they will not use your data. They will not use it for training. And many people have no problem getting approval from their client if they use Azure. So for my other implementation, I use the OpenAI, but for the upcoming ones, I will use that same OpenAI, but it will only come from Azure. Anthropic is a major competitor of OpenAI with a similar amount of investment, and their focus from the beginning is on enterprise use. So I have not really used it yet. I'm just signed up, but nothing serious, so I cannot comment on anything there yet. But except that it's a competitor to ChatGPT, and Microsoft has a major game with OpenAI, so its competitors like Amazon have to use something, and one of these somethings is Anthropic. They have Amazon. They have a special department called Bedrock, and Bedrock allows you to experiment with Anthropic and other models. And I think that is confusing enough, but at least that tells you where you start. Okay. Was that your question? I think yes, yes. Thank you very much. Now, I don't have to share the screen. I can just continue like that. But in order to be on the right page. So here we are. We talked about this. I showed running Llama, and okay, I'll tell you. So it's pretty easy to get credits if you are able to show that you are an AI company. So Microsoft gave me $25,000 in credits, but Amazon also came up with something, and that's what I want to talk about. So Amazon has a different program. If you talk to them, if you just talk to them, and that's what I've been saying up until yesterday or this morning. If you just talk to them, they will tell you, well, you bring us your project and we'll see if we found it. Okay, and I thought that they don't have anything at all, and their bosses don't allow them and don't support them. So now, up until this morning, the picture was like this. Amazon just throws money at you. Then, no, I mean, Microsoft just throws money at you, but Amazon would like to compete but cannot. I take it back. And then finally, Google did an easy way out. They say if you are funded with a known incubator, then we'll take you too. So I changed my opinion of Amazon because in the meeting they said, well, and what is your use case? And my case is very simple. We're a training company in addition to other things. Here, Elephant Scale Training Company. And as such, we have multiple courses. And here they are. And what would be nice is to load our slide decks and then ask the students, what did they get out of all of that? But be smart. It should be AI, and it should say, okay, we taught you about, let's say, Hadoop 3. What is it used for? And what are the practical use cases to deal with? And don't base yourself on the answers you can find on Google, but base it on this course. So we did a little prototype, but from a little prototype, it's a long way to the real story. And it was Amazon who said, okay, that's an interesting use case. We have partners and we will pay those partners to implement your use case. They use other terms for all of that. They use like, you have the expertise, and since you're so nice, we will provide our partner, but that's the essence of it. So I saw this estimate today, and indeed they say that zero cost after all. And that is, I think that was very interesting. Something practical for you also that you might use. And I think that completes an overview of what I wanted to talk about. Now, let me see who has a question here. Okay, Chef, is there some or list of existing tools, frameworks, architecture for Gen AI and RAG? It's just too much. Like, is there a summary of Python implementations of anything in the world? Yeah, kind of yes, but it's too big. So again, if you go through the course, and you don't have to go through my course, right there at the top, right there at the top, there is more or less a list of Andrew Ng courses. I was accumulating them one at a time, but in the end, Andrew published a complete list that he has published. So let me show you that list. No, don't replace anything, just go there. That is his list. Well, I probably have more because I was recording other people, but it's very similar. I think 80-90% are the same. Well, that's an answer, Shao. It's these courses that you need to take, and that's an outline. Okay, that was question number one. And then open source and not open. Well, for the most part, these are open source. Non-open includes commercial offerings, and they're not very forthcoming with what's inside. But again, it's just too big an area. Like, what's Google doing? What Google doing is something they call Vertex. And they keep rebranding to no end. And you can go and study Vertex. So I had such a request. I'm going to do probably a course on Vertex, but now everything should becomes Vertex. If you have pictures, what does Vertex do for that? If you have videos, what does Vertex do for that? That is an answer of open and not open. And Lawrence asks, would you be able to talk about agents workflows? Agents, I hear that it's a popular thing, and I think that Andrew Ng has a course. So yes, that's a good question, right? And I should put it there. Because agents, I think, basically means you do the all that you have to do. You go to the web and you combine the results. And I'm trying to find how do I go back to our outline. Okay. And how do you say, well, first go to the web and then go to this database and then do this. So that's implemented in ChatGPT. You are able to provide the code that will help you. For example, if you're asking, what's the weather? So it depends upon where you are, because in England, that's a very favorite question. You cannot beat that. But in other areas like ChatGPT, you can provide a Python function that queries what the weather is. And it may use it or may not, but that is an area that briefly describe what an agent is. So we're preparing ourselves for the next week. Here you are. And we are changing the date to next week. But here, we're saying agent. Well, does it make sense? The way I understand your question, Lawrence, is that correct? And then we'll see what practical results we will get. Hey, it's here. Other than that, that's it. We're done, and you get back 7 minutes. All right. So thank you very much for everybody who came. Okay, good. And we'll talk again. Talk again next Friday. I wish everybody a great week and a great celebration of whatever is coming. Thank you, everyone. So if you want to ask any question, just email. You can do it later. Be well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And if it's good information, you can always look for the recording.